Hello and welcome back. My name is Josh, and today I want to take a brief moment to talk about Twitter stock. In case you missed it on the news, um, the CEO of Twitter and founder, Jack Dorsey, who also is the CEO and founder of Square, um, stepped down as the CEO of Twitter. And when that happened, the stock actually initially popped about 10%, and then settled down. And it's actually been down since then, though the whole market's been down in the last couple of weeks. But I want to discuss Twitter, what I think of the company, um, and do I think it's a good buy, and how I think the Jack Dorsey news impacts the stock. So here's some background on Twitter for those who don't know. It is, I think most people know, but I'll read what this is. It's American microblogging, a social networking service, and they actually went public quite a while ago, 2013. And since then, if you can look, they are up. They don't pay a dividend, so that's the only thing you have to look at is the stock price. They actually are up 9% in total. And for most of that time, you were down. They were down quite a bit. They weren't really doing much. Then, what was it? Hype of Trump getting into office, I think. When did Trump get into office? Probably right around here, 2016. And from Trump getting into office, stock went up 100% until he left office. Then the pandemic hit. Stock went up quite a bit. Another 107%. I actually did buy, full disclosure, I did own stock in Twitter around 30, sold it around 56. It obviously went up even more. I felt a little pissed. This is why I typically remove, um, after I've sold the stock, I remove it from my watch list because I don't like seeing what happens afterwards. And since then, it's down 40%. So now it's actually down still a little, it's lower than where I sold it, but higher than when I initially bought it. And with the news of Jack Dorsey, I thought, you know what, is it a good idea to buy back in? So just for comparison, here's what Facebook stock has done since, what year was this? 2013? This is since IPO in 2020, but it's up 762% versus 9% for Twitter. And here's what the S&P 500 has done since 2013, to be fair. So since 2013, the market's up 184%. So again, Twitter has significantly lagged the market. Despite that, Twitter is a hugely successful product. So again, this is why I want to separate product from business. Millions of people, hundreds of millions of people use Twitter every day. People seem to really enjoy the product. They're very happy with it. It seems to be an amazing product for creating community, social discourse, getting news. I know some people, I'm actually not a big Twitter person, but I know some people are fanatical and can't go without Twitter. Um, and yet, despite that, the business itself, again, has not done well. So, this is, again, a thing where when I look at a framework, I try to look at, do I like the product? Do I think the product's good? That is important. Then there's what's the environment? So again, that would be like social media and how's this working. Then the third thing is the business side. The business is definitely important. It's like a three-legged stool. If you only have one of the legs, two of the legs, it's going to fall over. And that's what I'm seeing with Twitter, is that obviously they have a great product, but they just do not have the monetization or the right business model to fit Twitter. And when you actually look at typically how these social media companies work is from a business standpoint, they talk about monthly active users or daily active users, but let's use monthly active users as how many people use it per month. And then they look at ARPU, which is average revenue per user. So again, you have more users or you have more revenue per users. And those are kind of the two levers you can pull in order to monetize. So if you're growing the platform, but if you make $10 per user and you double the number of users, you've doubled your revenue. Well, what if you're not doubling the number of users? Well, you can make more revenue by either increasing the number of ads on the platform that users see, or having more targeted ads that advertisers will pay more for. So Facebook, obviously they own, or Meta now, they own Facebook, they own Instagram, they own WhatsApp, They own Oculus. But let's focus on Instagram and Facebook because those are the two main monetization ways. And the way they worked is obviously Facebook, it's still growing, but very slightly. But the way Facebook has grown their revenue so much is by pulling the monetization lever mainly. So, people used to see a couple ads every now and now I think every third post, especially on Instagram, seems to be an ad. So they're showing you way more ads. Now they don't want to show too many ads. If every post was an ad, it would turn users away. So you'd actually see a drop in users. So they want to find the right number of ads where they keep users on the platform. So that's the other way, right? You can add more users or add more time on the platform. So if you have a million users, but they're only on it for a minute, and in a minute you only see one ad, or you have 500,000 users, but they're on it for an hour, and in that hour you see 20 ads. Like obviously the 20 ads is better. I know that I'm a huge YouTube fan. I watch it a lot, and so no, I'd probably watch hundreds of ads. I would bet way too many. It's actually sad to think about how many ads I probably watch, but that's a thing that you need to think about. So it's how many users, how long are they on the platform, which again is it's not really a lever you can pull, but that's a product-based thing. You want the product to be sticky and people to stay on the product, and how much revenue do we make per user, um, which again is how many ads we're showing and how targeted are the ads. So let's compare it again to Facebook. So Twitter does have ads. They have sponsored tweets that you can see in the feed. However, the big difference, I think, is that with Facebook and Instagram, especially Instagram, which has actually, I think, been more popular than Facebook in terms of their advertising platform, it's very much lifestyle based. You're looking at maybe my wife is always, she's looking at we're redoing some things on the main floor, so she's looking at chairs and interior design, and then you see an ad for maybe West Elm, and they want to sell you some furniture or a rug. Or maybe she's looking up bathing suits, and then she sees an ad for a company that sells bathing suits. So again, it's targeted advertising. And they're very good at that. And because it's in stream, I find there's not a lot of interruption. And when you're on Facebook or Instagram, I think they very much know what you're talking about because you're talking about it in your social realm. You're talking to friends about what does my wife talk about? She talks about dogs, interior design, cooking and baking. Those are her hobbies, and so she sees ads for that. Personally, when I'm on Twitter, I do use it sometimes, but not that much. I basically use it for fantasy football news. So could you try and advertise daily fantasy sports? Probably. That's probably a good use of it, but I don't think that people really know my true use, like my true personality. I'm not posting pictures of myself, my friends, what my hobbies are. I'm looking up stock news. I'm looking up and fantasy sports news. And I think most people they have a different persona on Twitter, and so Twitter actually collects much less information on who you are, which allows them to target far less than a Facebook. So that's a major reason why the ARPU numbers are vastly different between Twitter and Facebook. Let's actually see if we can find that. ARPU, Twitter versus. This is from 2019, so it's still wrong, but ARPU, average revenue per user of 726, is up from 19% a year ago. On the flip side, Pinterest was only 90 cents. Let's see if they have one for Twitter. Twitter doesn't report ARPU. But long story short, that's been the major driver because when you look at it, Twitter has still hundreds of millions of users. And again, that was in 2019. And if we look at Facebook stock since 2019, even the beginning of 2019, even with the recent dip, it's still more than doubled. And I know Facebook has really been upping that revenue per user, and they're trying to layer on new use cases. So obviously, you can only shove so many ads down someone's throat before they turn away. And so, what has Facebook done now? Well, they've introduced new things such as Facebook Marketplace. That's another way to monetize. They say, hey, we have all these users on this platform. How do we monetize them? Well, the most obvious way is advertising, but you can connect them. You can help them buy and sell. And then people can say, oh, I want to promote mine. Here in Canada, we have Kijiji, which is similar to a Craigslist in the States. But again, it's like, hey, I want to have mine show up to the most people so you can pay to have it listed higher. And that's how they make some extra money on Marketplace. I've seen them start doing Facebook dating. So it connects you to people. Again, Tinder is, how much is Match.com, which I think owns Tinder. Match stock and Bumble stock. Yes, I'm not a robot. Thank you. Bumble's a $7 billion company, and Match.com, Match Group, is a $37 billion company. So again, these are decently sized companies, and again, they own Tinder. So Facebook would love to generate some additional revenue and add lots to their bottom line. But again, I was talking about this with a friend. When you are almost $1 billion, how do you keep growing? Right? Yes, you have more users, but even if you added the entire value of Match.com and Bumble, and let's say there's five others, let's say it's double this. Let's say the whole value is 70 billion. What's 70 billion over 907? 70 billion over 917. You're only talking about an increase of 7%. That's not really going to significantly change their business. They've been growing 11% a year. So you could talk about they could acquire the entire business of Match, Bumble, and every dating app. And yes, you're going to make some more revenue, but not that much. So they need to keep layering on these services. They say, hey, we got the attention of millions of people. How do we introduce more services that we can sell them? So that was why they tried to get into sending money. So they tried this one. It was called Libra, or it was called Diem, and then it was called Libra. It was like a cryptocurrency, and it tried to allow people to send money over WhatsApp and Messenger. Why? Because if they can take a tiny fee, think about it, like Visa's worth, now you're starting to get into much bigger markets. How much is Visa worth? Visa's worth $449 billion. And Square is worth, how much is Square worth? Square is worth 83 billion, and MasterCard's worth, now we're talking $1 trillion market cap. So if Facebook can start getting into payment processing, because they can connect people and allow them to send money, how much is PayPal worth and their Venmo app? So, if they tried to basically have a Venmo ripoff where you can send money to other Facebook users, that could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap. So that's a much bigger idea. So again, Facebook's layering all these new revenue opportunities. What has Twitter done? Again, they've barely made any money on the social media side. They aren't very good at showing ads, and they really haven't introduced many other ways of monetizing. They just are starting to now, but, and there's a big but, there are some interesting things that the new CEO points to. So one, the new CEO was the chief technology officer, and as a chief technology officer, you'd think he'd be more focused on product and technology. And one thing that's good is that they can hopefully layer on new business applications and business models. So again, just like how Twitter is trying to add more services with marketplace and dating and money exchanges, you're hopeful that Twitter, with this new direction, can layer on additional products where they can monetize. So, their biggest product lately was, I think it was called Twitter Blue, that allows you to like change the color and the icon. It's like $5 a month. It's barely anything. But I've heard some interesting ideas of what some additional revenue opportunities are. And again, there's only a $36 billion company right now. It's 30 times less than Facebook. So even just monetizing a little bit more could have huge impacts on their bottom line. So I've heard for those who don't know what Substack is, Substack allows people to create newsletters and send those out like paid newsletters. So if you want to pay $10 a month for a newsletter from this person or that person, you can do that with Substack. And Twitter's trying to do that they acquired a company, Twitter, Substack. Here you go. They acquired a company called Review, and Review is similar. It's an email newsletter company, so it allows you to basically set you're on Twitter, you get an audience, you start making tweets that people like. Someone says, "Hey, I really think this guy's smart about business or finance or fashion or whatever." Then you want to start a newsletter. Well, you can do that through Twitter through this company Review. So that's an additional thing that they started relatively recently. Review was 2021 January, so less than a year ago. I've heard ideas of not but like with Tinder there's a super like, a super follow, similar thing where you can basically become like with YouTube, how people can um, like donate. If you're watching a live stream, you can say, "Hey, here's $10. Thank you so much." Similar, you can have people who you really like. Um, you can donate to them, and they can take a fee of this. I think it's really about creating a community. They've also done the live spaces. So for those who don't know, Twitter's typically just written, but now you can create spaces, which are like these audio rooms where you can talk and people can listen. I think they're really trying to create this community sense where people are creating these lounges where people talk and listen to people they like. Normally you go to maybe you go to a conference and you listen to someone. Well, they're trying to create the virtual conference where, hey, I want to listen in to what you have to say, and I really enjoy your thought process. Well, now they want to be the virtual ticketing. Hey, you want to hear me talk? It's $5 to enter into my spaces, or you can become a monthly subscriber for $10 a month, and Twitter takes a fee of that. I've heard an idea from Scott Galloway, who's a business professor, and I liked it. He said, for most of the people on Twitter, most people aren't creating a ton of the content. Most people like you and I, we're just reading. There are a couple huge people who use it heavily. People like Elon Musk and people like these businesses that are trying to start brands around themselves. So again, people who are trying to, you could say Scott Galloway himself. He's trying to build a brand around himself, a media brand around the Scott. If we look up Scott Galloway Twitter, he has kind of turned his Twitter persona into a bit of a media thing. Um, He's obviously also a business professor, but he's now CNN Plus. He's on there. He's got a podcast, Pivot. He's got another podcast. He's written some books. So again, he's trying to use increase his media persona via Twitter. Um, and he says these people who are the biggest users of Twitter. So again, these brands, actual brands, media brands and actual brands like Oreo cookies and stuff like that. Why aren't they paying a subscription? Because it's in some ways become the PR department for a lot of these companies. You know, you would not see a major company not on Twitter. They need to use it to say, "Hi, we're very sorry about this," or "We want to give you an update on if there's an outage with PG&E, which is an energy company." They'd go to Twitter. That's the new way to send to the masses a notice, is Twitter. So he says, there's thousands of these companies, these brands that use Twitter as their marketing department. And then there's other people like Kylie Jenner, who again has built a brand around herself, who, now she sends a sponsored post and she makes maybe like, how much does Kylie make from a sponsored post? Kylie sponsored post cost $1 million, $1 million a post. So Twitter is allowing her to make $1 million a post. Maybe it's $1 million if it's on Instagram. Let's say it's 200,000 a post on Twitter. Just making the number up. Twitter sees none of that. Again, maybe they hope that someone on her sees Kylie Jenner's post that Kylie made 200,000 on, and they hope that they can make like 10 cents for someone scrolling down and seeing an ad for Oreo cookies or something. Doesn't make any sense. So the logic is, hey, Kylie, you want to stay on the platform and you want to continue to make $20,000 a sponsored post? You got to pay us $5,000 a month. So you charge these mega users cost. So again, most people who have 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, nothing. If you have 100,000 followers, maybe we charge you $200 a month. You have 10,000 followers, maybe we charge you like $10,000 a month. I don't know the exact cost, but you could figure it out where the bigger you are, because you're talking to a larger audience, the more you have to pay to stay on Twitter. So again, only these verified accounts would get it, these large verified accounts, and the everyday person still gets to use it for free. I think this is, I'm not sure it's an amazing idea, but I think it's an interesting new business strategy. And again, the way I look at it is Twitter needs new business models because the current business model is not working. So again, going back to Twitter, what do I think about it? I like the product. I think they're improving the product, and I think that they are, and I think the media landscape. When I look at it, I think Twitter has far less of a target on its back than some other big tech companies. So when you look at social media, people are mainly talking about the evils of Facebook and Instagram. how, oh, it's leading to teen depression. Oh, the people really don't like Facebook. It's got a negative brand association. And Twitter, I don't think so. There are some negative things about Twitter that people say, which is very much around the free speech debate. That people do think that they're potentially, wait, whatever you think about Trump, because again, I don't want to get this political, but um, taking a sitting president off of Twitter was a decision that led to controversy. I'll just say it that way. Some people will highly support it. Some people will say, he has the right. This is the new public square. How can you silence someone? And should tech companies be deciding who gets to speak in the public square or not? Again, Twitter is kind of, like we said, the new way that companies communicate to and media personas communicate to the public. Um, so there is some mild controversy around the free speech debate, but that's more minor. And I think, again, they have a much smaller target on their back. So if they can execute on products and new business models that can, and this is why I can't actually do a framework, because with most businesses like Facebook, I could say, what are their growth rates? What do I think these growth rates are gonna, oh, I think their margins are gonna decrease, but I think their growth's gonna increase. Oh, let's put a discount rate on that, and I can kind of come up with an end multiple. With Twitter, these are products that we have not even, business models that they haven't even come up with. So I could maybe say, oh, if they come up with this business model, I think that they're gonna, and monetize it. I think that they could double, and I really do think that this company could easily double if they find some really good business models, or even just 3 or 4 different ones, and throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what works. So I think there's a lot of upside potential, more than double. Again, they're 30 times smaller than Facebook in terms of market cap, despite, when I think about it, they're probably not used 30 times less than Facebook. They're probably used maybe, let's just say, like a quarter as much, 75% less. So there's a lot of upside for this company. But I don't know what direction they're going to go to with this new CTO. I think they're going to be focused on products, and I hope that those products will have good monetization strategies. So again, what you're really betting on here is the monetization. If you think the company changes nothing and they just keep kind of doing a business model where they're showing ads, I think this is a bad stock, and I would avoid it at all costs. If, however, you think that the new management can introduce new product lines and new business models that will increase revenue significantly. And again, I think that the advertising business model is pretty shitty unless you can do it really well. So I think, like the one that Scott Galloway said, subscription based, I think that could be really interesting. I've heard one which was like kind of crypto based, which I thought was interesting, which I'll just highlight really quickly. It's basically you get paid, like there's a Twitter coin and you get paid for content creation. Um, and if it gets retweeted and viewed a lot, then you get paid more. So it encourages you to create good content. You also have to stake your Twitter coins to post a certain amount. And if you steal someone's content, so someone else made a joke and you repost it, you lose Twitter coins. So it's like something that costs. Again, crypto is one, it would bring tons of investors, tons of people in, because anything crypto right now is getting a ton of hype. But two, there is an interesting incentive where it incentivizes people to create more value on the platform, because if you create more value on the platform, you're incentivized because your coins will go up or you'll get more coins. And how this would benefit Twitter, again, if they can magically create, 1 billion Twitter coins out of the air, airdrop 50% of them to their users, and their holdings would go up because people would want these Twitter coins. So this is an actual business model. Again, crypto is all about aligning incentives, and to me, you want the user. Twitter, like any of these ones, is a content creation platform. Facebook makes its money because the users create content, and then people stick on the platform to view that content, right? Someone reposts a YouTube video and says, "Look, this is so funny." Again, Facebook didn't create anything. They created a platform for people to share content. Same thing with Twitter here. It's the users who are creating the content, which is why people stick around on Twitter. So why not incentivize those users to create great content on Twitter? Again, content creators are going to TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. There's content creators on all of them. Why not encourage them to come to your platform by incentivizing them by saying, hey, you make great content and people view it a lot, you'll be incentivized because you'll get more of our Twitter coins. That was an interesting idea. I need to think about a little further how it would work. But long story short, full disclosure, again, I sold all my Twitter shares, but I am actually thinking about either buying a small position of Twitter as a tracker position, or even buying some leaps. Leaps are long dated options. What does that actually stand for? Leap options. Leap are long-term equity anticipation securities. There you go, I forgot. So it's basically option but long-term. And the logic is, if Twitter doesn't do anything for the next 2 years, I don't think this is going to happen in 6 months. I think this is going to be a long-term story. I think it's going to take years for them to really turn this ship around. But, again, there's a huge runway here. So if in the next 2 years something major happens, that'd be good. My one hesitation is, again, the market's kind of in a pullback period. Will Twitter be caught up in that? And, irrelevant to the fundamentals, you might see a big drawdown in the stock, potentially. So again, warning, I'm not recommending buying Twitter. It's not undervalued by any means. And this is my opinion, it's not advice. But if you believe they can introduce new products and new ways to monetize Twitter, I think this is a buy all day. So it's really about what you think they're going to do. Really, right now, I'm going to sit and wait and hear what I have to hear what the new CEO says about the business model side. And I'm very interested to hear what he says. So thanks so much for watching. This has been my not so quick video on Twitter and my thoughts on both the business and the product and what they need to do to succeed. So let me know in the comment section below. Are you believe in Twitter? What do you think the new CEO? Do you think it was a good pick, bad pick? I actually kind of think a lot of people said that they would have liked to see an outsider, and so would I. I think there might be a little too much of when you pick from the inside, sometimes it's more the same. I too think I would have preferred an outsider to come in, but we'll see how this goes. So you can never know really who's going to be a great CEO and who's not, but I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of Twitter because Jack again he was CEO at two companies. So finally having someone fully devoted to the business, I'm hoping we'll see things differently and see that, hey, this has not been a good business for the last 8 years. Ugh, that is an ugly chart. Thanks so much for watching. If you got some value out of this and you enjoyed it, give me a like, please. It'd be very much appreciated. Again, I make these videos mainly for myself, but it really does. I do want to give value to the world, and so if you did get some value, it'd be much appreciated. And let me know in the comment section below what else I can make a video of to add value to you. So again, if you want me to do something on a specific stock, or you want me to go deeper into Twitter or anything else, let me know in the comment section below. That's my way of knowing. I wouldn't know otherwise. So thank you so much for watching, and talk to you next time.